Welcome back, everyone, to Culture Leader Conversations. This is a series where we get to explore the art and impact of leadership on workplace culture. And today, my guest is Roberto Medrano. And Roberto and I we actually were colleagues formerly, I guess a few years back. It's more like about 10 years ago. But Roberto, why don't you
Jeez.
yeah, it was about 10 years ago. It seems closer than that, but it was a while. But why don't you start off by sharing a little bit about your journey and what brought you to where you are today?
Oh, well, first off, thank you so much, Veronica. It's so great to see you because I know it's been at least a year since we're actually been able to even connect in person. So doing this and having the opportunity to talk to you today and be part of the series is just super cool. So thank you. Where do I start the journey? I mean, I've been in hospitality for as long as I can remember since I was 15 years old. Like started in food and beverage actually and working in kitchens when I got my permission from my mom at the time that I could work on weekends for X amount of hours so I could work, you know, 8 hours over Friday and Saturday nights and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, just progressively just fell in love with the industry from the get-go. I quickly found out just how much I love being around people, interacting with different, positions in the restaurant industry. And quickly people found out also how much I like talking for being in that environment. So long story short, I basically went through every role you can imagine within the restaurant industry from, like I said, kitchen when I couldn't wait to turn 18 so I could then learn the operations of the front of the house and became a server, bartender, assistant general manager, you name it. I've been, like I said, I've been involved in things that are related to the sales aspect of the industry for a long time now and just fell in love with the industry and really fell in love with just dealing with people. That was really what attracted me to that. And I knew that that's where I wanted to be, was in the hospitality industry from a young age. And in hotel specifically, I've been in it now for almost 13 years now. Started my career with Silver Birch Hotels and Resorts. That's where I got the opportunity to meet you
Yeah.
and everything. And it's been great. Had the opportunity to work for some amazing, amazing mentors. You were one of them. I can think of a couple individuals there that I'm not going to just name any because then I'll feel bad that I left out potentially some, but they know who they are. And yeah, just been fortunate to work with amazing brands like Hilton, Marriott, Choice, brands, independent brands, you name it. And here I am, 13 years later. I've progressively gone from property directorial sales, being in charge with some of my amazing sales teams over the past, the largest hotels in Edmonton. I had the pleasure to be the director of sales for all of them in Edmonton. And now being in a regional role. Well, now I get the opportunity to work with directly directors of sales that I support across many brands, many hotels across Canada, and I couldn't think of anything else that I'd rather be doing right now. So
That's
yeah,
awesome. And it sounds from what I know is you're also mentoring others right now.
I, I've always I've always enjoyed that aspect of my role, and so regional role. I find it that there's a lot of because it's a support role to a lot of directors of sales. I get the opportunity to do some of that direct coaching and mentorship at times. Particularly if there's maybe a director of sales who might be first time being in a hotel industry. Those are my favorite ones because they come in and they're just a sponge. They really just want to learn everything there is to know about the hotel industry. So it gives me the opportunity to be able to hopefully pass on what I've been able to learn over the years and be able to contribute to their own journey as they start on their own as directors of sales and contribute to their own growth. But also, if I get to work with some seasoned directors of sales, it also gives me the opportunity to have that collaborative relationship with them where, together between their experience and mine, hopefully be able to elevate also the performance of the respective hotels. So yeah, so it's pretty cool.
I know it's amazing. I find it very fulfilling. Coaching, training, mentoring, but also learning. I always tell my clients, I'm like, I will always learn probably just as much from you as you will learn from me. So,
100%.
it's like that.
100%.
Love that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump in with the culture questions because I'm very excited to see what you have to share with us. So my first question is from your experience, What are the most valuable lessons you've learned about leading with a people-first approach?
People first approach. Well, first, and again, because of how fortunate I've been working with some great mentors when I first started in hotels, right off the get-go, that empathy component and that empowerment components are so critical when it comes to having that first person approach. Right from the get-go, especially working in hotels, I had an opportunity to have some couple of great mentors that, they just gave me the opportunity, it gave me the rope, the empowerment to do my job. They were there to support me when I needed the support. They were there to reel me in where I got a little bit, trying to start running before I could walk with certain things that I was still in the learning mode. But they were always there to support me. And so, but they still gave me that empowerment to make decisions. They gave me that empowerment to, at times, like, you have to make some mistakes in order to learn from them. And so whether that was in sales, whether that was in marketing, whether that was in business development, they gave me the opportunity to fail. And I'm a perfect, I believe without a doubt that that's really the only way you get to grow is that you gotta go for it. You gotta test out that campaign. You gotta test out that strategy on sales. You gotta test out these things and even in how you coach your teams. If you don't do it and you don't test things out, you don't learn from that. And so that's really key when you're having the same approach now that I take with my team is, hire people that, you put in place, give them the empowerment to do their job. Obviously, onboarding, coaching, training, those are critical initial stages, but then hire people that are going to go and do their job and be there to support them when they need you and so forth, right? And so that and leading with empathy, you got to be able to understand that this is still a people first business and you got to treat people as humans. And so in a perfect world, we all don't want things to go wrong, but the reality is we are humans and there's going to be that element of personal stuff that also is going on behind the scenes. You got to be able to be understanding to those things, and that doesn't mean that you cannot hold your people accountable, absolutely, but there's still a empathetic way in how you should still hold people accountable while still understanding that life happens and you have to really deal with a case by case basis and try to be empathetic into how you lead at the same time.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, there's things popping up on my screen here.
You're busy. You're a busy person.
I hear you though. It's when I really enjoyed that, using you use the word empowerment.
Yeah.
And that I think is one of the magic ingredients is giving the people the autonomy and empowering them to, and as you say, like I so often use the words fail forward. You have to try to do things in order. Yeah, sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't, but then it's what's the most important is what you learn from things that don't work out. So
100%, 100%.
That's fantastic. Awesome. So my next question is, I'm so curious about this because I ask the same question to all my guests because I just think it's, wow, I really need to turn off some things here. So the question is, how do you align your HR or people strategies with broader business objectives for growth?
That's a great question. I think obviously, there has to be alignment in every discipline, especially as a company. I mean, and I'll use my company as a perfect example with, Hotel Equities. I mean, I think that there's great alignment between how we recruit people and, the people that come in and are going to fit within that culture that we're trying to drive, which is a culture of people, it's a culture where we care, we genuinely do care, of bringing in the right individuals that are going to contribute to the goals, objectives, and the vision that we have, which ultimately is, to drive results for our stakeholders. But at the same time, making sure that, training and adaptability and innovation, those people that we bring on have to be able to bring that sort of skill set as well when we're going through recruitment. And so hiring the right people, even if it takes sometimes longer, than expected. I think you also have to look at the soft skills, which a lot of times, I think a lot of people overlook that, like just because you don't have 10 years of experience or 5 years of experience in hotel sales, it doesn't mean that you cannot learn the business. So, I think that within that culture and working with HR closely, making sure that they understand that, listen, I've hired even recently some great talent that have never worked in hotels. And so having that open mind that as long as they align with the values and the culture that we have in the company, you can still teach the business. I never knew hotels 13 years ago, but I felt that, obviously somebody took a chance of me, decided that they did see that I had the soft skills that could be sort of the foundation to then grow into a director of sales. Same thing, so I think that HR and leaders that work in operations or sales, we have to be properly aligned, and that communication has to be open with them. That I'm not looking for the perfect seasoned sales manager all the time. I'm looking for the perfect candidate that brings a specific set of skills that work in the hospitality industry. Are they relationship builders? Do they enjoy building a network? Are they good at listening to people? Are they good at, how they communicate? Do they have strong communication skills? All those things sometimes are more of value than sometimes having that years of experience in selling in hotels. So definitely alignment between us and HR from that perspective.
Yeah, I love that. And, what was coming up for me as you were talking is like hiring for attitude, right? Your mindset and your attitude, it's just everything when it comes to business. So I can see that the alignment there with the HR folks and
Absolutely.
hiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having that communication with them is key. We can teach the business, but you're right. If you hire for attitude, everything else will fall into place, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah, it generally does. Absolutely. Especially the things that my clients all the time, it's when they call me for different things. So awesome. Okay. So I'm curious to know if you can share with me if one thing comes to mind, or you just want to make a general statement, whatever you feel most comfortable with, but was there a defining moment for you that celebrates workplace culture?
I was thinking about that question when you sent me some sort of, what this discussion could be about. And I think back to 2014, and you're probably like, how do you even remember that? It's because I vividly was thinking about a defining moment when it came to like that whole component of culture. And it was a conversation that I had with my general manager at that time in 2014. And he'll know who he is just by the timeline that I'm giving right now.
Yeah.
In 2014, and I felt that I was at a crossroad at that point, just having been like almost like going into year 2 as a director of sales, and trying to sort of, how do I grow just beyond at the property level where my team and I, were gelling well, things were going fairly well. We were meeting targets, metrics, and all that. Everything was going great. But I felt that myself as a professional, I wasn't growing as fast as I wanted to grow within the industry as well. Right. I've always been somebody who wanted to feel like I wanted to be part of something bigger. And I remember having a conversation with this particular mentor of mine. And he said, listen, I'm going to give you a piece of advice here. And this is how the whole, empathy part of the culture and thing that kind of just comes to mind. He was so understanding and listening to how I felt in terms of, here's where I like to see myself in the next 3 to 5 years. And so listen, the biggest piece of advice that I can give you right now is focus on network. Focus on networking and focus on networking. And I said, oh, it's like if there's anything that I would say, not just to you, but any leader of mine that is just starting off in this industry, is build a network around you. Get out there, make yourself seen, contribute. Even if some people may not agree with an insight of yours, may not agree with, what you bring to the table, you're still being seen. You're still contributing to the industry. You're still contributing to the world of hospitality. And so he's like, network, 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 network. He's like, if you do that, you will get to where you want to see yourself. And it just stays with me, Veronica, after all these years, because I was okay at networking before then, but I really tried to accelerate how much I wanted to be part of social events, networking events, conferences, meetings, And then also I started to be more involved in sort of sharing information and things that as I was going on my own journey, sharing things on LinkedIn and things like that. And I kid you not, probably within 2 years, I could see that change where I felt like I was contributing more to the industry that I had just joined, that I was loving so much. I felt that change, that shift completely changed. And I owe that to that conversation, because that person was so aligned with that culture of, not only empowerment, but being empathetic. And he led with such an empathy that he could see really what I was asking of him, and advice and mentorship. And that moment just stood with me. And so same thing, if anybody listens to this, if you're starting off with, it doesn't have to be hospitality, any industry, focus on growing your network. It's going to be more valuable to you in the long run than you even imagine, how you build your network out. So, yeah.
Well, I love that. We were actually still working together in 2014. So obviously I know exactly who you're talking about. And as someone who I consider a mentor and adore, and yeah, what amazing advice. And you really, what my observation from where I'm sitting here in Kelowna, but you really took that and ran with it. Like more so than I likely have seen anyone, and your personal branding on LinkedIn is exceptional. And I know a lot of people can
Thank you.
Yeah, but I know that was hard work. That was like, I know it comes naturally to you because you have an amazing personality, but it's also, you have to you put effort into it. You put intention into it, a lot of intention. So, and kudos to you, because you really stepped it up there, and I can see why that would really benefit you in the long run. So, and then
network.
And I learned that from one of my mentors as well earlier on, and so I can absolutely relate to that. And yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so the next question I have for you, honestly, this is the question that I've been wanting to ask you.
Oh my goodness.
I teach a lot of workshops, and we talk about employer branding. And so this quote comes up quite a bit in those workshops. So the quote is, "Your culture is your brand." So I'm curious if you can just riff on that for me a little bit. Like, what is your thoughts? What comes up for you when you hear that quote?
All cultures are brand. Oh my goodness. It's similar to saying that, how you present yourself to the world, especially as if you're a leader, how you present yourself to the world, whether it is internally or externally through social channels and things like that, that becomes a direct correlation in how you teach, coach, mentor other people that you are in full support of. And that has been a direct correlation in how people are when it comes to guest services, when it comes to building relationship with our customers, with our clients. Everything has a direct effect if you are the person who's leading with that type of, aligned with the culture and the values also that you bring with yourself. And so I think of my sales leaders, how I conduct myself. And I like to think that I conduct myself professionally with all of them, whether it's in a one-on-one or whether we're in a group setting, in a meeting. I would like to think that because culturally and from a value perspective, I conduct myself in a professional manner, that has a direct correlation in how I expect my sales leaders to conduct themselves in a professional manner when they're dealing with clients, when they're dealing with guests, when they're dealing with, stakeholders. And so that is toe to toe, just it's so aligned in how you have a direct effect in those that you support or that you're coaching and mentoring. So that's how I view that, is that your culture is your personal branding. And so, and many times, it's unfortunate because I see a lot of people that think that your personal branding online is separate than your professional branding. The reality is, in this day and age, you have to be very aware that everything that you put on social media or digital channels, people automatically will correlate those two together, how you are as a person as well, and not just professionally. And so, yeah, it's very interesting that sometimes I think there's a lot of opportunity there for a lot of us there still.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like it. It's again, what was coming up for me as you were chatting is like, you got to walk the talk.
Yeah.
People are watching, they're observing everything, especially those your that are working with you on a team and you're mentoring, you're responsible to as a team, that you really need to walk that talk. So that's awesome.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hopefully, because I know you've been waiting for an answer for that. So hopefully, you're like, at least that's how I feel on that one. So yeah.
I love that. It really is about like it all, they just go hand in hand so much. So, and I often think about it from an employer branding perspective, but you're pulling it in as like your personal branding, or which matches your professional branding as well. So it all speaks to the same language.
It's evolved, Veronica. It really has evolved. Where before, maybe 10 years ago, when social media wasn't quite as it's grown to what it is now. But I mean, there's been employers that I have talked to over the years that will literally say to me, "Oh, I know everything I need to know about you because I saw your LinkedIn profile."
Yeah.
People have no idea that before you even get in front of an interview, people have already checked out what you do on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Does that align with the culture of the type of people that I want to bring into my organization? And so they go hand in hand.
And someone that I know who's an HI or an AI specialist, he was just telling me that the back end of LinkedIn now can actually AI can analyze someone's profile and give you questions to ask them when you get to meet with them in person for networking or for sales opportunities or whatever. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So it's analyzing your full profile, and then yes, that what an amazing tool, first of all, right? That exists. But you're right, it's like whatever you put out there is so important to understand. Like that it's out there for the world to see.
It's out there for the world. And once it hits the internet, I'm sorry, it's in the internet. So.
Including for AI to LY. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to shift gears and talk about sales a little bit, sales specifically. So can you share an example of where the company culture directly influenced a major sales decision or approach?
I'm sorry, Veronica, can you repeat the question?
I'll repeat it. So can you share an example of where the company culture directly influenced a major sales decision or approach?
Well, part of again, using examples from where I am right now. I mean, part of our culture is to be innovative, and so making sure that understanding that things have progressively changed even from like 5 years ago. Never mind, and it's getting even quicker and quicker. That window, in my opinion, when it comes to technology, you just mentioned AI and things like that. So from a culture sales perspective, having that mindset, especially as leaders, that it's our responsibility to not only stay innovative in the way that we do things, but also being very adaptable to the way we do things. And there's an old saying, cliche out there that says the worst something about the most dangerous statement in the English dictionary is this is the way we've always done things.
Yes.
Nothing is to me more relevant to sales or marketing than having that mindset. You have to understand that nothing that we did 5 years ago may potentially even still be relevant to the way that we do things now. So from a culture perspective, having that mindset as leaders in an organization that we have to stay adaptable, we have to be, very sort of nimble in how things are progressing and staying on top of new innovation, new sales tools, resources, and ensuring that our teams are always also being equipped with whatever we feel is going to set them up also for the future. That goes hand in hand when it comes to the way that an organization culture and how we approach sales certainly has to stay on top of it. And so things like ChatGPT or AI, digital marketing as a whole has dramatically changed from what I remember even 5 years ago. And so having the mindset to adapt, 100% important, in my opinion.
Awesome. Yes, the open mindset. Love that.
You have to, yeah.
So important. And those words, yes, we've always done it that way. I can't tell you how often that comes up in my HR practice and consulting practice, and I just want to cringe.
Yeah, it's like no, yeah.
It's usually employees saying, "This is what they told me," or "This is what they said," and so that's the closed mindset versus the open mindset for sure. So my last question for you is, how do you plan to evolve the sales culture to meet changing market demands while staying true to your brand, whatever brand you're representing or your personal brand?
Consistent training. And not just consistent training, but updated training. So very similar to what we just talked about. I mean, I think that that's how you stay from a sales perspective, not only ahead of your competitive set, but also ensure that we meet the responsibilities that we have to our stakeholders, our management companies, our owners. It's that consistent training, making sure that we know what is happening in the world of sales. How can we adapt new technology? How can we adapt new sales training? Sometimes refresh training is just as valuable as new training for people. Myself, even though I've been doing this for 13 years, I'm sure you feel the same way for as long as you have been a professional. Constant learning is so important, so I try to spend at least, it's not a lot, but I try to spend at least 10, 15 minutes every day reading an ebook on something that is, has to do with new trends on marketing or new sales. And a lot of it, maybe 80% of it is like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, nothing has changed. Or yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that from 5 years ago. But that 5-10% that maybe just is a new trend or new innovation, new skills, new training, that could make the difference sometimes between how we done it before and how we should be maybe look to do things differently and be more productive, more efficient in the way that we do things, because that's the realities nowadays. Efficiency and productivity are very much key metrics in how we are sometimes measured when it comes to sales and marketing. So staying constant training, updated training, that's how you stay ahead of the game when it comes to your sales profession. That's my short answer.
I love it. It's like you're speaking my love language right now. Learning and development is like developing. One of my favorite things to say is you can have all the strategy in the world, but it takes people to execute the strategy. So you have to consistently train and develop those people and yourself, taking that radical responsibility for learning.
Yep. Walk the walk. I think you said it best. Walk the walk. I mean, if I'm pushing my people to take on a webinar or potentially get a certificate on this because I think it's going to help them grow, have I done it? Am I also showing by example that I also continuously want to grow? Part of the culture, once again, right?
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. For those who are viewing our conversation today, check out Roberto's LinkedIn profile, and I'm sure you can, jump in and ask him to follow, or you can follow him or connect with him. But
Disconnect, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting the things that you share. I love watching what you share, to be honest. It's fantastic. And those of you who want to have more conversations around a people first approach around workplace culture, I'm going to invite you to join our People First Club, which is a membership program where we get to talk about these things a couple of times a month with a community of people learning. So again, my love language is learning. And so if you want to know more about that, DM me, or I'll put some links in the bio here. So we'll be back again with another Culture Leader Conversation in a couple of weeks. And I've actually invited Glenn, who is another person that we worked with formerly. So we're going to get a view from a finance perspective or a finance lens on workplace culture, which I'm super excited about as well. So I have to arrange that with him. But thank you again, Roberto, for being here. And I really appreciate taking the time.
Thanks for having me.